Alright guys, I'm going to talk to you guys about, I was doing this job where I was up in northern Iowa, all over Iowa actually, from Des Moines all the way to places like Hartley and Cherokee, maybe Storm Lake. You've maybe heard some of those things if you're from the area. And I was driving all around, even in Nebraska, and going to locations. I was actually touching up and painting walls all over because there were just all kinds of problems, and trying to help one of my customers out. So I'm going to show you guys some of the quick little painting hacks that I used for doing this, and little shortcuts and things like that. Things that I could pick up at Home Depot. I didn't really have very good resources for materials other than the Home Depot, Lowe's, and I'm going to kind of go over some of the things that I found that actually worked pretty good, and some of the things that didn't work very good while it was on the road. So first of all, I'm going to tell you these things here from Home Depot, pretty much garbage. They don't like to roll very good, so I had issues with these. I didn't really like them that much. They actually work pretty good for some paints, but not for regular house paint. So I didn't use those much. I did on one job and I went, no more, I'm done with these. But I actually found these at Home Depot. These are the Whiz applicators, and they almost have like a feel of like carbon, or what's that called, microfiber. And they feel kind of like microfiber. They're not microfiber, but they feel kind of like that, and they're not like your typical synthetic or white dove purdy type rollers. They were actually kind of like more like a microfiber, and they actually held pretty good paint and released pretty nicely. These were from Lowe's, so if you're at Lowe's and you needed some quick rollers, these ones I would try versus some of the other ones that look more like this. You notice they have ones that look like this. They don't work very well. I didn't find these to hold very much and release very much paint. But these actually worked pretty good in a pinch. If you needed some at Lowe's, you could grab some of these. I wouldn't normally buy these, but they did on the road work pretty well. Another little thing, I needed to cut in some really tight areas, so I needed a really small brush. I actually needed a 1-inch, but I couldn't find one for I was doing really between letters on a wall. And one of the things I found is these Wooster, these are the Chinex bristle brushes actually hold and release a lot of paint for the size. So you can get a really small brush in these Wooster Chinex bristle, and it's not China, it's not a white China, it's actually Chinex bristle. I'll show you on the label so you don't get that wrong. Chinex bristle actually holds and releases really good amount of paint for the size of the brush. Right here, DuPont Chinex, I believe it says somewhere. It's in Spanish. There's a really small, right here, DuPont Chinex right here. So it was really small writing. I had to find it. So I used this for some things that I had to do larger amounts of touch-up. Now I had some places where I just needed to do like a couple of areas, and I didn't really have time to wash a brush. So because I had so many things, these here from Harbor Freight Tools, 99 cents for just doing some touch up, and then you can just toss it in the trash. 99 cents. They actually work, I'm going to say crappy, but they actually get the job done. And so if you do have just small amounts of touch up to do something, and you need to do lots of volume of that, and then just be able to just not clean the brush and throw it away. I had places where I really just didn't have place I could clean the brush, so these came in handy right here. I also brought with me, I brought my hand masker. So I brought my 3M hand masker, a really good thing to have for the job. I could throw that down, and I was doing something where I had to make a little bit of dust. So I had my 3M hand masker and some 4-foot film. I used Trimaco. I did run out of it. So the last couple places I went to, I wasn't able to use this. So always dropped by Harbor Freight while I was there, got the brushes. I got one of their 12 by 9, what is it? No, not 9 by 12. It's a 4-foot by 12-foot drop, so I could carry that with me. And then I used that in places where I didn't use the plastic. I have a lot of these brushes. I bought just a dozen of them and used them and threw them away. Another really cool thing when I was at Harbor Freight is this little shield. And you might go, you know, this isn't something you're going to use on every job. And, you know, I did not find cardboard shields there. So, and cardboard shields were actually going to, you know, wilt in the car while I was going from location to location because of the moisture in the air. So when I was at Harbor Freight, I saw this and I thought, well, this will work pretty nice. And what I did with this is I would push this up against the T-bar. Let me do a setup for you. And I got these terrible, this was terrible, but they worked. I mean, these are the Slim Jim rollers. And, you know, a lot of them were the 4-inch. And they were selling like a little kit at Lowe's with the 4-inch thing and with a 7-inch roller. No, don't use that. So I had to grab the crappy Slim Jim setup, and I put these rollers on. And what I did is when I was doing around my T-bar, I actually was holding this on the T-bar ceiling and then rubbing my roller against here so that I didn't have to cut in the ceiling. So I'd paint the whole wall, and I held this against the ceiling or against areas like I would use a switch plate cover. I would just hold this against the switch plate cover and then just roll right up tight to it, and it painted within, you know, 1/8 of an inch of whatever it was. And when it was dry, you couldn't even see it because it was near almost the same color. So that came in really handy. Sometimes having one of these around might be a good idea. Might be something you might want to throw in your truck. It was kind of a handy little for touch-up type of thing that worked really well for what I was doing. So I just wanted to share that with you guys real quick. Now, you guys know that I'm always a fan of Crawford Spackle, and they don't have it at most of the stores I was at. They may have had it at Diamond Vogel Paints, but I had already gotten this, so at that point I didn't just want to have a whole can of Spackle because I only had so much room. I was carrying this bag right here full of equipment. I just roll it in and do my job and then roll it out, go to the next one. I really had a high volume of stuff to do. So this is kind of good stuff for in a pinch. It's not the best one, but it's not too bad. It doesn't flash as much when you go over a patch. So I was patching very small holes and stuff like that, and this actually did the job and will work decent. I'm not going to say this is really good. It's supposed to be non-shrinking, but it actually does shrink a bit. So it's not quite like Crawford Spackle, but it's not too bad in a pinch. They do have this at Home Depot and Lowe's. I did run into some areas that I had sticker glue, you know, like stickers, where they had sticker glue on the wall, and the sticker glue, to get that off, you use this stuff right here. This is pure citrus orange. It's just air freshener, and what you do is you spray this on the sticker glue and basically use a putty knife or whatever and just, you know, agitate a little bit, and it just wipes the sticker glue right off the wall. And then I would use my Sprayway glass cleaner. This is the stuff I use right here, Sprayway glass cleaner, and then what that did is this would neutralize the orange oil that's in that, because the orange oil might cause fish eyes or something like that. So when you use this here to remove the orange oil, real quick, I'd use this in a paper towel, wipe it off, and the wall was nice and clean to paint. Another thing I found really handy to bring with me was I brought my color match. This is the ID color match, and these things actually work really well if you know about these. This is a portable spectrometer. It works with your cell phone, and it was really cool because it gives you any of the paint store's closest match. So literally I didn't have time to do much eye match, you know, so I went to it and I would scan it, and I would find a color that, for instance, one of them was a Benjamin Moore color. So I just found a Benjamin Moore dealer in town and just bought paint straight from them, and went to do them. Some of them actually use Diamond Vogel, so I was able to use their paint. The local company, they're actually from Iowa, so it was kind of cool using local paint for some of the jobs where I was kind of stuck on a weekend and I was waiting, so I could wait for an eye match. So I did it on a Saturday. Used Diamond Vogel a couple times out there. But having this portable spectrometer was really handy to get a quick match when they didn't have paint on site. Some of the locations had paint on site, so I was able to use the paint they had and touch up fix holes and stuff like that. So it's just a lot of traveling around and fixing stuff and going to another location and fixing it. If you're doing something like that sometime, it'd be really cool if you had one of these on your truck to do the color match. I did carry some blue tape, which is good, but I probably used more of this orange. This is the 3M orange tape, Scotch 3M, and it's kind of like a medium stick, and it's got a little thicker paper. They put a lacquer on the paper, so this is actually a really good tape as an all-around tape. It comes off and goes on easier. I did also have some of this light stick tape because I was siliconing some sign letters to the wall, and if the wall was pretty freshly painted, I didn't want to pull off the paint that was on there, so I used this light stick stuff. Kind of handy to have for that type of thing. But that's kind of basically the equipment that I use. So what I would use most of the time is I just use a Slim Jim to paint, you know, about a 10 foot wall or 12 foot, 15 foot wall. And you might say, well, gosh, why didn't you use a 9-inch roller? By the time I set up a 9-inch roller, I was already done. It would only take me about 15 or 20 minutes to paint it with a Slim Jim. And with a Slim Jim and no pole, because you can just hold the bucket with one hand, or in some cases I had to use these paint trays, which I really recommend not using. You got to be really careful using a paint tray because these things tip over really easy. But like I said, I was only painting a 10 by 10 wall, so sometimes this thing became the thing to have for doing that. So, but I did everything with a Slim Jim because it was quick and easy. I could just throw away the roller. I had to clean everything up really clean, put it back in this bag, and I didn't get paint on my clothes, I didn't get paint on the ground, I didn't get paint anywhere. So that was kind of the way to do that in cold weather where I was at. Just some ideas to throw out there if you have a job that you're doing where you're doing that. I also had to use this texture as well. This wall texture right here is the one that's the waterborne, not the oil, because I was in an office, medical office, and if I got at the oil stuff, I'd be thrown out of there in minutes, and I really didn't have time for that, so I made sure I got this one here to match the wall texture on some of the locations I did. So it was kind of a lot of jumping around. I went to like 30 locations, and a little over 30 locations in 2 weeks. Some of them were also in grocery stores. Had to do work inside the grocery store early in the morning, and they had difficulty finding somebody who could make sure that all of it was done and the photos were taken the way they wanted. So they sent me out from California to go do it. So anyway, that's a couple little hacks you guys can throw in there if you see something that you might use, little tricks, maybe something that might help you. That going around the switch plates, I'm going to tell you, going around the switch plates and thermostats and stuff like that with this thing was cool. That actually worked really good, and it saved me from doing much brushing, and especially when I'm using one of these garbage brushes right here. You don't want to do too much cut in with that. That's just gonna, but I would just do a little bit of cut in, touch it up, throw it in the trash. Put it in the trash, go to the next one. I just had so many locations to do. That was the best method to do it. So anyway, just something to throw out there. I figured you guys might like to hear about that stuff. I'll talk to you in the next video. Please like, share, and subscribe. I'd like to see your comments. Maybe you guys have some more ideas you could throw in there for the next guy, or for next time I have to do something like that. Talk to you in the next video.